we've got the system defined, we've got it provisioned, we've got it sort of up and running, we're watching it behave, and of course that begs the question of how do we make sure that it stays up once it's up? So can we talk about reliability and what HP is doing in that area?
Exactly. So you talk about business continuity and availability. Well, and you mentioned it, SAP is a business application. It is connecting IT with business. So a risk in IT means a risk in business. Now these tools are great for optimization, consolidation, and virtualization. But at the same time, you want to keep a high level of availability. And what I'm trying to say is, if your IT is not running, your SAP is not running.
Right, if that's not running, your business isn't running, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So HP has a lot of experience in the high availability and disaster tolerance area. Our products are called HP Service Guard, and the portfolio spans from local data center availability products to disaster tolerant products like a metro cluster or continental cluster. And this is the basis for our solution in the SAP world. So we have specific modules for each of the ISVs or use cases. So for SAP, we have a specific module called Service Guard Extension for SAP. This product is making sure that the latest version of SAP is tested, and it has a lot of additional features that includes NQ replication, protection of central instance and the database at the same time, and it's fully tested and certified with SAP. Now, when we look at a specific feature of that product, which is called Hot Standby Live Cache, you see the value HP brings in an SAP environment. The product I was just mentioning, the Hot Standby Live Cache, is targeted, and it's part of the Service Guard extension for SAP, and it's targeted at customers running SAP Supply Chain Management, SCM.
Something you don't want going down, right?
Exactly.
I mean, typically.
Right. So when we look at a typical supply chain, you have your suppliers, you have your manufacturing plants, and in the end, all of this gets delivered to the customer. Mm-hmm. Now, if you break that supply chain at any point, it's going to affect your whole business because the customer might not be happy, the dealers might not be happy, and, well, in the end, you're gonna have a problem. And supply chain management from SAP is managing that environment. One of the key technologies in SAP's SCM product is an in-memory database called Live Cache. It holds a lot of data that is part of the supply chain management process because it needs to be real-time, it needs to be very performant. And when this component, that Live Cache, goes down, it is just like if any other database would go down, except because it's held in main memory, it takes a relatively long time to reload. So therefore, SAP came out with a feature called Hot Standby Live Cache. And we have integrated this in our Service Guard extension for SAP product at no additional cost. So when we look at the details of the solution, Live Cache was always able to be clustered in a high availability scenario, right? But if it fails, a failover is initiated and it needs to be restarted, and a whole database recovery needs to be done. Now with Hot Standby, you have a system similar to what you see on this slide. So you have your primary side on the left, on the bottom left, and you have a standby on the right. So the application server of the SAP SCM system works with the Live Cache and updates it. And the way we have implemented it, the changes are being put on a shared file system, which you can see in the middle. It's the SAP log file system. and changes are being put on there and then applied to the master side. That's the basic principle. Initially, though, there's going to be a synchronization between the primary live cache and the standby live cache, because a live cache could easily hold 80 gigs of memory and data. So it holds memory it holds data in memory, but also on disk. Initially, there's a synchronization, and then for each change, the standby live cache will apply the changes to the already running standby live cache. So during normal operation, the master live cache will always be synchronized with the standby version. Now, when we look at a scenario where the master live cache fails, just like in any other cluster, there is no need for a restart of the standby live cache database because it's already up and running. There might be still logs on the shared file system in the middle on the SAP log, because these are the changes from the SAP SCM system. So there is maybe a little time where the users or the application needs to wait for those changes to be applied, but it's usually in a matter of seconds because the logs are not very big. So underneath, there's just a switch of control to the standby side, which is then converted into the master.
And that should happen relatively quickly, right? That's a matter of seconds, or?
That's a matter of seconds. The switch is actually a matter of seconds. But when you look at the whole process, well, we tested it internally, and you can't say it for sure, like always, but in about 2 minutes, you have the whole system ready to be used for an SCM application.
Contrasted with completely rebuilding the database and putting it back in memory, which would take substantially longer. Right?
Exactly, right. So by the time it fails, the cluster software detects the fail. Then there is a synchronization in the cluster, and the live cache actually does a whole database recovery. So there's a roll forward, a roll back. There's a prefetch of the data from disk into main memory. And this could take easily 2 hours. We have actually customers that could be down for days if something like this happened. And that is with traditional clustering. Now, with the hot standby live cache, that can be brought down to minutes. And in this example, it's 2 minutes because there's no database recovery. There's just a short roll forward because it needs to look for the change logs on the file system that has been set up. And then it has to activate itself. That's in a matter of seconds. So when you look at the benefits to a customer that runs supply chain management, they're more than obvious. Because if you violate your service level agreement, you're going to have a problem. And would you want to be responsible for that?
No.
Okay. And I have to say, because it is part of a standard product, it is easily manageable, easily integratable, because it's not a customized project with, compared to other vendors. It is part of a standard product that can be ordered. So it's also secure and a predictable investment. So if you go down this road, you're going to be protected by our roadmap. And we're making sure the latest versions are going to be certified. Now, in terms of requirement, I just want to quickly talk about this. Right now you need StorageWorks XP storage arrays from us, business copy. You need a cluster file system, which is also part of one of the Service Guard modules, and you need the HP Service Guard extension for SAP Toolkit. A certain version of live cache is also required, but that's about it. And it's certainly a very high-end solution, but it has already been implemented by a reference customer. And I can say that HP is the only one right now, and we have been the first to offer a pilot customer that product, and they are, which is Festo, and they are the first and only productive customer running the solution right now.
And they're seeing the benefits that we've talked about. They've experienced that, and they're happy and moving forward.
Yeah, their supply chain, as I mentioned initially, is very critical to them. So they could not afford any downtime. So we brought it down to minutes. And they're running it very successfully. So they have a centralized supply chain, and which is depending on many, many other applications and processes. So they have been implementing this as the first